I think the ridiculousness of this and the tabloids that you are quoting and referencing are insane. And this has been something that I've refuted for years, and I continue to do that.
She did not ever once look into their eyes and say under oath, no, I'm not having an affair with Corey Lewandowski. Up first, we're going to talk about DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, my absolute fave, if you've been following. I just think she's doing a bang-up job. Not at all, actually. But anyway, she just testified before Congress, and as these things do, it did get contentious, but the tea is piping hot on this one, because they literally asked her about the alleged affair she's having with Corey Lewandowski, who's a special government employee and working with her at DHS. And I say alleged because it's like, don't sue me, girl. But from the people that I talk to, from the ample reporting, it's like an open secret in Trump world that these two are having an affair despite both being married, allegedly. Anyway, we're going to get into that tea being dragged up in the middle of congressional hearings. And why it actually does matter. It's not just salacious gossip. It does matter. But first, I did want to make a correction. On yesterday's show, we talked about that video from the Smoothie King that went super viral. And this happened in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And these teenagers kicked out a Trump-supporting couple from the store saying, we don't want to serve Trumpies and all this. And my take on it was that the store was right to fire them and we shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. Although stupid teenagers don't need to be like brutally harassed or anything like that. They were in the wrong and we shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. But I did respond to the kind of, I guess, the MAGA supporter guy in the video saying this is illegal. And I said, I don't think it is illegal. It's against the company's policy and these employees don't get to go rogue. But I said, I don't think it's illegal. Now, some of you pointed out in the comments, and I appreciate this, that that's potentially wrong. That is wrong because under Ann Arbor local laws, so municipal ordinances, city ordinances, political party and beliefs is actually protected class in anti-discrimination. And I didn't know that, but I didn't just pop off. I actually checked and researched both federally. I know it's not a protected characteristic. And then in the state of Michigan, statewide, it's not a protected characteristic, but I didn't think to check the local ordinance. So I was actually wrong to say that it's not illegal. It's still not a criminal matter, so the police wouldn't get involved, but it would be a violation of anti-discrimination law and potential grounds for a lawsuit. So that was my mistake, and I do apologize for that error. Other thing, announcement, I'm leaving later today for a roughly 10-night trip to South America, to Brazil, and then we're also going to make a stop in Argentina. So I'm so sorry to disappoint y'all, but you are going to miss me. I'm not going to be doing podcasts for Friday or all of next week, and try not to go too crazy without me. I'll miss y'all. I'll miss doing the show, but then we'll be back, and I'll be back at it again. So I will have some videos rolling out over the course of my trip over on the Normal Gaze channel that I do with Clarkson Lawson that are just more lighthearted entertainment. We filmed like 8 of them in one night, and those are going to release as I'm gone. But this channel will go dark. This main channel, this podcast feed will go dark for about a week. So try not to miss me too much. Anyway, now let's talk about Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, who just testified before Congress and was asked point blank about her alleged affair with Corey Lewandowski. Here's some reporting from NBC News. And notice how she never denies it, because she is under oath. That we'll come back to that. Listen to this.
Tonight, embattled Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem confronted over allegations she's having a sexual relationship with former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski, who serves as an unconfirmed special governmental employee.
Have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski?
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee.
Noem offended by the question, but never directly answering it.
I really think you need to say the word no into the record so that you can clear that up.
I think the ridiculousness of this and the tabloids that you are quoting and referencing are insane. And this has been something that I've refuted for years, and I continue to do that.
Noem also forced to defend the department's $200 million ad campaign with the secretary as the star.
You budgeted an astonishing $220 million for media consultant contracts so you can star in self-promoting photo shoots in lavish ad campaigns.
The secretary also cornered on NBC News' reporting over her seeking approval for the purchase of a $70 million luxury jet with taxpayer funds. The DHS says the plane was intended to save taxpayer money.
Wouldn't it have been cheaper just to buy a deportation plane in the first place?
Democrats accusing her of steering more than $140 million to a marketing company with a tie to her political apparatus, something Noem defended.
Was it all done correctly?
14 billion impressions from that marketing campaign.
Sure.
It was money spent in this country and in 8 different countries that illegal migration was coming from.
Madam Secretary,
overwhelmingly effective.
We all
$39
understand the argument that you've made.
So guys, I mean, notice how when she was point blank asked multiple times under oath, are you having sexual relationship with Corey Lewandowski? Are you having an affair? She said, this is ridiculous. Tabloid gossip. Mr. Chairman, I can't believe I'm being asked about this. She did not ever once look into their eyes and say under oath, no, I'm not having an affair with Corey Lewandowski. I'm faithful to my husband. Because if she did, she would be perjuring herself. She would be committing, if the allegation is true, she would be perjuring herself. She would be committing a serious crime with potential jail time that, frankly, Democrats, when they retake power, would and should go after her for. If she did lie under oath, you can't do that. And I think she knows that if they had subpoena power, it would not be difficult to obtain more evidence undercutting such a claim. So she just dodges it entirely. And I think that's a problem because it means that elsewhere in media interviews and public statements, when she has denied the affair, she's addressed it specifically and said, no, it's ridiculous. It's not happening. I deny it. But then when she's under oath, she won't. So are you unwilling to kind of signify the veracity of the statements you make to the public about relatively important things? Because what's also important to note about this, guys, it's not just personal tea. It's not just her salacious drama and whether she's a faithful wife or not. The person she's alleged to be having an affair with is her unofficial chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security. She doesn't have a chief of staff. She tried to get him, based on the reporting, made the actual chief of staff, and people were like, no, you can't do that. Everyone knows you're allegedly having an affair with him. So he's just a special government advisor or employee, rather. And he's heavily involved in the operations of her department. Yeah, this is crazy. Like, you can't be doing all of this. It's obviously massive conflicts of interest, massive lacks of transparency and honesty. And the fact that she won't address it under oath tells you something. It tells you a lot, if you ask me. And it's just like the latest thing in her credibility crisis and the way that she has taken what was a winning issue for President Trump, getting tough on illegal immigration, securing the border, and turned it into actually a political liability because of the haphazard way and overzealous and crackdown and the insane public statements they made about the ICE interactions where people were killed. That she was asked about that and she gaslit about that as well. We'll get to that. Now, I will read you because they're not, she's like, oh, this affair allegation is just tabloid gossip. Okay, but it's tabloid gossip with some receipts, babe. With some serious receipts. Reading here from the Daily Mail. ICE Barbie Kristi Noem and Homeland Security Advisor Corey Lewandowski's cozy DC living arrangement revealed. Then I'll put this photo in. They shout out to the Daily Mail because, I mean, they're ratchet. They are misleading at times, like the New York Post, some of these other tabloids, but they'll also like do stuff other reporters won't. They just camped outside Kristi Noem's apartment a little while ago and just photographed Corey Lewandowski coming in and out of it late at night and in the evening with a duffel bag. Here's a photo of him with a duffel bag. Okay, ma'am, explain to us what this man is doing coming out of your apartment with a duffel bag. Oh, he's just a government employee. We just have a professional relationship where he comes over at night with a overnight bag and then leave. Like, I was born on a day, but it wasn't yesterday. Okay, Miss Thing. And if you want to get up to your nasty business and you want to do whatever your arrangement is with your husband, I'm not going to say I don't care because I do judge you. I do think it's immoral. But I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world. Obviously, we've thrown out a while ago this question of morality as public officials, but it's the dishonesty and lying and slipperiness that relates to as well how she's approached other issues of public policy that I have a serious issue with. Just reading a little bit more from the Daily Mail here to show you it's not just gossip, right? I've seen them together here, both in the elevator and in common areas, one resident of Noem's building told Daily Mail. Don't forget, D.C. is a small town and people talk. It is an open secret that they are together. As DailyMail.com previously reported, she and Lewandowski have been much more than close colleagues, enjoying an intimate relationship since 2019, if not before. We revealed extensive evidence of the couple's affair, including dozens of trips that mixed business with pleasure. Oh boy. Flights on donors' private planes and stays at luxury resorts where onlookers presumed they were a loved-up couple. I don't know. With my colleagues, I go to resorts and stay just the two of us all the time. You guys don't do that? Anyway, more here. In the months leading up to the 2020 election, the dalliance was an open secret at the White House and among high-level GOP lobbyists and political consultants. It became a joke, said one Trump administration employee. So yeah, listen, I do believe this allegation. It is, I guess, just an allegation, but it's telling that she won't say under oath that it's not true, and I question whether we should really have somebody behaving like this with another government employee. It's not just her private life, and then blatantly lying to the public about it, but then not being willing to double down on that lie under oath. Telling. Very telling. And she also lies about other things. So remember, of course, we talked about this at the time, but the death of Alex Pretty, the man who was observing ICE and then got involved when he saw an ICE officer shoving a woman. And you can, and I did, in fact, in a panel on my other channel, you can debate the legality or justification of whether the ICE officer was justified in using lethal force. But he was not. Alex Pretty was not a domestic terrorist. Yet immediately, before an investigation had even began, let alone been completed, Kristi Noem, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, fixed her mouth to publicly call him a domestic terrorist. Now she's asked about it before Congress, and she tries to gaslight us again, while under oath, and say she didn't call him one. She just definitively stated that he did domestic terror. I don't know. Here, I'll show you the clip. It includes her under oath first, and then the flashback to what she said immediately after Alex Pretty was shot and killed. Let's watch.
Ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
So that's what she said under oath. I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of domestic terrorism. First of all, the words appeared to be were not what she said. So she's not being honest. And two, I didn't call him a domestic terrorist. I just said he was engaged in domestic terrorism is a distinction without much of a difference. I don't know. I would not. I didn't call him a rapist. I just said he raped someone. So you're calling him a rapist. Like, that's a hypothetical, obviously. I'm not talking about Alex Pretty. It's not really that meaningfully different a statement, I don't think. And I'm not sure it's any better, even if that was what you said, which it isn't. And I'm about to play you the flashback clip, but it's like, it's not that much better. And you still shouldn't be making these kinds of declarative, conclusive statements before you've done an investigation. Like, actual professional law enforcement officials say, I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. Can we bring that one back? But instead, when you put politicians in charge of law enforcement like this, and deeply unserious ones at that, this is what you get. Anyway, here's a flashback to what she actually said in January when Alex Pretty was killed.
When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
Yeah, so she lied and definitively stated that he had committed an act of domestic terrorism before she had any reason to believe that or any investigation had concluded that. And we now know that that was not the case. Alex Pretty, whatever you think of him, whatever you think of whether the officers were justified to use lethal force in that moment, went out as an observer to ICE and then got involved and had an altercation with an officer where he thought the officer was, he tried to put himself in front of the officer shoving a woman, and it spiraled out of control. But the idea that he was ever a terrorist who set out to hunt down and kill law enforcement to send a political message isn't true. They now admit it isn't true. At the time, she conclusively stated it as if it was, with no real basis and before any investigation. And then she gets to Congress under oath and she tries to like twist her words and gaslight us and pretend she never did that. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. I don't believe a word she says, and I think she has zero credibility left at this point. I also will say, and here's the headline from NBC News, Trump frustrated with Kristi Noem and considering replacements. Sources say he needs to replace her, but I don't like some of the options. For example, he's talked about the Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. I think he'd be a very poor choice. He is not articulate. He is not bright. He is not like, he is a politician, a rough and tumble guy. I think he would fall into some of the same, maybe he'd be less like blatantly corrupt and performative than Kristi Noem, but I think you need a very serious career law enforcement professional in charge of this agency to get it back on track and make sure that what this doesn't, even if you're listen, like, I guess this is the kind of the bow I'll put on it. Even if you're somebody who supports mass deportation, supports Trump's immigration agenda, you should want it done in a professional, serious, by-the-book manner, not run by a loose cannon, openly, allegedly having an affair, and constantly lying and gaslighting everybody while dressing up in costumes for TV hits and being like 50% filler at this point. I'm sorry, I find her ridiculous, and Trump should absolutely give her the boot. And hopefully she can go back to farming in South Dakota and not shoot any more dogs unnecessarily. I don't know, guys. But maybe I should tell y'all how I really feel.